engine oil, filter, transmission, coolant, transfer case, rear diff, and I'm actually going to flush the coolant system first. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Welcome back to Phoenix, Arizona, and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be telling you everything you need to know about changing the fluids on a 1999 Mitsubishi Eclipse GSX, aka a 2G DSM with a turbo and all-wheel drive. Now, if you're in a hurry, I totally get it. Go ahead and check the description below. You don't have to watch this whole video. I have everything from the capacities that the car takes, to the fluids I used, to the bolt sizes from the engine oil pan all the way back to the rear diff. So, you know, check that out. Hopefully it's helpful to you. For those of you that are sticking around, let's go ahead and have some fun, start getting these fluids changed. All right, first things first, I've got the car jacked up on jack stands as level as I can possibly get it. If you don't know how to jack up the 2G DSMs, you're in luck. I made a video, I posted it right before this one, so you can watch that and then come back to this one. But we're gonna start with the coolant. So I have been running, where did it go? This flush cleaner or whatever by Prestone, just got it at Walmart, super cheap. But anyways, I've been running that through the system over the last week with distilled water. So it's pretty much all distilled water in there at this point. If you do the same thing, just make sure you're turning your heater on and running it through the heater core, and then don't forget about your reservoir over here too. You want to run a little bit in there. So we'll get that drained first. And in case you're wondering, the coolant system is just under 2 gallons. It's 1.85 gallons. So we'll start, make sure your engine is cool, obviously, and we'll crack the radiator cap here. Obviously, you know what happens when you crack it when it's hot. I did that the other day, and I've got distilled water and maybe a little bit of that flush all over everything, so we'll have to get that cleaned off. But once that's cracked, we'll head underneath. And just underneath the front bumper is your radiator. I think they call this a petcock. It could be wrong, but basically I need to get my drain pan underneath here, but you just twist it and you should start getting some coolant or water coming out, and then make sure you got a pan to catch it all. Okay, once that finishes draining, you can just go ahead and put the petcock plug back in. I did pull this about halfway through when it was draining, so that really speeds up the process, but that should pretty much clear out the system. Now we just gotta clean out the reservoir up top. For the reservoir, I'm just using this pump I got from Harbor Freight. Just pump everything out. Okay, once you've got the reservoir empty and the system, of course, empty, then it's time to put in your coolant of choice. I'm going to be using distilled water and this Redline Water Wetter. I wouldn't recommend this for everybody. I live in Arizona, so we never really get under freezing. If you live in, you know, a climate that gets to freezing, you wouldn't want to use distilled water and this, because you could theoretically crack your block when it freezes out. So I'm going to give it a shot. You definitely don't have to. If you live in a colder climate, I would probably just use 50-50 pre-diluted coolant. But again, Arizona life. So the directions on this water wetter say that it treats, one bottle treats about 12 to 20 US quarts. This is only a, you know, just less than 2 gallon system, so that's just less than 8 quarts. So we'll probably only put about half of this bottle in the system. And for those of you worried about the lubrication properties of coolant, this actually has the same lubrication properties and also keeps the engine cooler. It's just at the cost of, you know, not being able to handle cold climates. Then we'll top it all off with some distilled water. And then don't forget to top off your reservoir as well. I put a little bit of the water wetter in there. And then top it off with distilled water. And then we're pretty much done here for right now. We will have to start the car, get it up to operating temp, make sure we get any air bubbles out of here. But before we do that, I'm going to change the other fluids. Okay, up next is the engine oil, so we'll crack the top on that. The system is a 5-quart system. You can use, the factory recommends anything from 5W30 up to 20W40 depending on the climate you're in. So the hotter the climate, the thicker the oil. Being in Arizona, I'm going to go right in the middle. I'm going to go with a 10W30, and then I'm going to be using a K&N filter. This filter is a HP-1010 if you go the K&N route. The drain plug on the oil pan is a 17 millimeter, and then I'll show you where the oil filter is. Okay, so under the car, just on the back of the oil pan, there's your 17 millimeter drain plug, and then if you go just in front of the oil pan, up top there is your oil filter. I was looking on Instagram the other day, and I saw, holy smokes, that thing's on there. And I saw this hilarious meme about oil filters and kind of modding your car, so if I can find that, I'll put it up. Change those oil filters, boys and girls. My OG subscribers know. Put that mileage on your oil filter in case you forget to write it somewhere else. To your car's health, as I stated before, I'm going in the middle of the spectrum with the 1030, but 530, 1030, 2040 are all approved by the factory and the guy at O'Reilly's who told me all this information. Also, this is kind of a no-brainer, but check your oil level after you change the oil. Okay, up next is the tranny. So first things first, we'll take off the fill plug, which is a 17 mil, and then over here is a 24 millimeter drain plug. And you want to make sure and use the right size on the drain plug because it is a very skinny bolt. I read some horror stories online where dudes stripped it, so you know, use the right size bolt, 24 millimeter socket. So 2.3 quarts is the capacity for the transmission. I went on a website called Jack's Transmissions, I think. I'll link the website below in the description, but their recommendation was Redline MT-90. So that's what I'm going to be using in this 75W90 GL4. I think is what is recommended, but that's basically what MT-90 is. So that's what I'm using. Use whatever you want. That is some stinky gear oil. Looks pretty good though. Sorry, I know it's really dark for you guys. This is probably a no-brainer too, but just so you guys know, I'm always taking the fill plug off first. That way the drain, when you open the drain plug, it can flow a little bit easier. So both, or I should say on the transmission, the transfer case, and the rear diff, I'll be taking the fill plug out first, then the drain plug. Okay, just reinstalling the drain plug, then we'll fill her up. I actually ran into the same problem last time when I was doing the tranny fluid on my 350Z, but I have to fill it with a cup and to use my Harbor Freight pump to fill it up. So I'll come back as soon as I got the tranny filled up with the MT-90 and have it just seeping out the top of the fill hole there. It's starting to come out, so we'll pop that 17 mil fill plug back in. Give it a quick wipe down. This tranny's actually pretty filthy, so I'll probably need to get it to the pressure washer and get it cleaned up. Okay, so up next is the transfer case, and it's kind of hard to orient yourself down here. So if you guys are following me, radiator right here, petcock where we drained it, oil filter. Straight behind that, you've got your oil pan with the drain plug. Go straight to the passenger side of the oil pan, and you've got your transfer case. Right up here in the front of the transfer case is your fill plug. It's a 17 mil, and then back here is another one of those sort of flat 24 millimeter, so I can get that to focus, 24 millimeter drain plug. Oh man, that baby's on there. If I was a betting man, I would say this has never been taken off. Oh, got it. You get extra man points if you grunt and breathe hard when you do it. Sorry if it's hard to see. Nice. Just wipe that down quick. And we'll put the drain plug back in. Some of you may disagree with this, some of you may not. I'm going to put heavy shockproof in the transfer case. You know, in the heat here in Arizona, I think it's fine to run the heavy, so that's what I'm going to run, but your mileage may vary. So 0.55 quarts is the capacity, so we'll put about half of this in, it looks like. In case you wonder what heavy shockproof looks like, Okay, we'll drop the 17 millimeter fill plug back in, cap it off. Onto the rear diff. Alright, if you're wondering why the rear diff looks wet, it's because I sprayed it with PB Blaster. This is, both the fill and the drain are the same 24 millimeter socket that we've been using. The fill plug back here is kind of a tricky one because you've got the sway bar kind of in your way. So I put the socket on first, and then I had to put a separate half-inch drive adapter on my, I don't know what you call it. What's the size smaller? 3/8 inch drive. And that's how I ended up getting it loose. Moral of the story is both of them are 24 millimeter, so hopefully yours aren't as hard to get off as mine. And I apologize if the light looks funky, but I ran out of sunlight, so I had to break out a lamp. Fluid actually doesn't look bad at all. Let's see if there's any shrapnel on the drain plug. I think these are magnetic. They're pretty hard to see a little bit. There's some metal there, but nothing out of the ordinary. Okay, we'll give it a quick wipe and drop the drain plug back in. Alright, capacity on the rear diff is 0.95 quarts, so just shy of a quart. And I'm going to do the heavy shockproof back here too. Again, with the Arizona heat, I'm just going to use the heavy, but your mileage may vary, so pick and choose your fluids however you want. This is what I'm using. And we got her full, so we'll drop that 24 millimeter fill plug back in. Good. So I just noticed on the back of the diff that it says it's a viscous limited slip, but the weird thing is when I turn the wheels, so if I turn this passenger side one this way, the wheel on the other side goes the opposite way. And if it's a viscous limited slip, I feel like it should go the same way. So if there's a DSMer out there watching and can explain that to me, I'd love to hear it. Okay, if you guys remember from earlier, we didn't finish off the coolant system, so we'll just fire up the car, wait for it to get to operating temp, fill it up with the distilled water until we can't fill it anymore, and then I think we'll call it a night. And while we wait for the car to get up to operating temp, make sure you check for leaks underneath. A little bit of water coming down from where I just spilt, but tranny, transfer case, looks like the rear diff, oil, all that is just fine. Okay, we've got engine up to operating temp, and we're full on water, it looks like. So we'll cap it off. Alright guys, I think that will do it for today's video, changing the fluids on the GSX Eclipse. I hope you enjoyed it. Just a heads up, after changing the fluids, I didn't notice any difference, nor was I really expecting to. This is just peace of mind. Now I know it's got brand new fluids in it. I know what the fluids are, so it's a step in the right direction in kind of taking care of this thing and moving on to the next step. If you're new to the channel, I just got this car a couple weeks ago. Not really sure what I'm going to do with it yet. I have seen some comments below. I appreciate what you guys are saying. I'll definitely take it into consideration. So stick around if you like the Eclipse. Otherwise, I appreciate you watching. Stay tuned for more, and I'll catch you in the next one.
Listen.